I'd like to speak to a lawyer now. Please. You have no murder weapon. You have nothing. And all these stories we've been telling each other, just that. Stories.
The found footage movie genre makes its way to the computer screen in Her Story, the deeply convoluted, frequently shocking, but always engrossing new game from Silent Hill designer Sam Barlowe. But is the story enough to make up for the minimal interactivity? That's coming up next on JO42 Reviews. The early 90s saw video game developers rushing to take advantage of new technological innovations such as full-motion video. The result was a few great games and a lot of cheap trash featuring community theater-level performances from actors who were clearly wondering how it had come to this. Outstanding games for the format included Sewer Shark and Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, while infamous clunkers like Night Trap and Plumbers Don't Wear Ties turned the medium into a joke, and still more games like Mad Dog McCree fell somewhere in between. Today, the genre is making a comeback thanks to the advent of lower production costs and a willingness to adapt the gaming format to more unorthodox storylines. Outstanding among this new movement is Her Story, a recent indie game that transcends the politics surrounding the current arguments about what is and is not a game to deliver a truly unique and captivating experience. Her Story is not just a triumph of game design, it's a triumph of filmmaking. Carried entirely by the whirlwind debut acting performance of Bikini Atoll keyboardist Vivia Safair, Her Story is intoxicating from the moment it starts and achieves its goal in spades with only the most minimal of interface. The premise is simple. You are given access to a crime database which contains clips from 7 interviews with a woman who is speaking to the police in regards to her missing husband. All of the clips are from a few seconds to a couple of minutes in length, and all of them contain leads for you to follow up on. The woman drops a particular name, and you search the database finding more clips. And as the Pandora's box opens deeper and deeper, we begin to unearth a web of lies, deceit, and intrigue filled with jaw-dropping plot twists to satisfy even the most hardcore fans of Chuck Palahniuk and M. Night Shyamalan, assuming the latter has any left. There's been considerable debate about the low level of interactivity in Her Story, much of which is likely due to the recent glut of non-games masquerading as indie darlings, the ultimate example being Gone Home, or as I like to call it, Dyke Mansion 3D. Look, what it all comes down to is this. If you're going to take the emphasis off the interactivity and present players with an experience that is only 2 steps up from watching a movie, you better have one hell of a story to compensate. The young adult problem novel level premise of Gone Home was immediately obvious from the get-go, especially if one goes into it aware of the fact that the game was successful primarily on the hype of the perpetual tweens that currently infest games journalism. Her Story has no such pretensions, although one irritating plot twist towards the end does reek of the kind of young adult reconciliation narrative fetishized by social justice parasites. Whatever the case, the game's intricate story had me going from the very outset, and I was quickly filling up a whole spiral bound with notes on the story as it unfolded. Her Story is definitely the sort of game you only play once, but what a one-time it is. Like a Sudoku puzzle that requires you to go back and free up spaces you previously thought were filled correctly, Her Story has the player constantly refining the information before them, even formulating multiple theories to see which one plays out, making for a great party game. The only real drawback to Her Story is that a large part of what makes it interesting is entirely arbitrary. If the clips in the game are played out in sequence rather than needing to be uncovered, the mystery would be solved rather quickly. The game attempts to explain away this circumstance by including a README file on the artificial desktop, which explains that the original VHS tapes, which were filmed 20 years prior, were damaged due to time and storage issues. But that doesn't quite satisfy. After all, wouldn't whoever did the original data transfer drop the video clips into a single timeline for each interview and mix it down to a single file? The stilted presentation method on which the game hangs calls to mind the Chris Nolan classic Memento, which similarly is only engaging because the events in the story have to be watched in reverse. But if you can suspend your disbelief, you're in for a ride. Overall, I'm giving Her Story a thumbs up and recommending it for its roller coaster of a narrative and outstanding performance by Vivia Saifer. You'll be doing a lot of listening, so I would recommend getting it on Steam rather than your mobile so you won't be stuck holding the screen for hours on end. That's it for this installment of JO42 Reviews. I hope you're enjoying the new segment. I intend to do multiple topics in future episodes. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments, subscribe for future updates, and let me know if there's any new games, books, or movies you'd like to see covered. Peace.